Carl Bildt here with some quick reactions on the refugee crisis you might have seen in Europe around the small Spanish enclave of Ceuta on the coast of Morocco in Africa. What happened was that the other day, suddenly, there were between 50 and 60,000 Moroccans, young men, essentially, that stormed across the border, breaking barriers and swimming around them to invade the enclave. This was, of course, a major crisis, to put it very mildly. The background is, of course, somewhat difficult to understand. It is slightly difficult to understand, to put it very mildly, that 50 or 60,000 people could suddenly appear before a border without any sudden warning and without organization. And indeed, there is ample evidence that on social media there was a mobilization, there was transport organized, and the Moroccan border guards were not particularly active, at least not in stopping it, to some extent, perhaps even facilitating. So clearly, this was all of the ingredients of something that was semi-organized in order to have pressure on Spain. Why then? Well, we've seen it before, by the way, from the Moroccan side, and it's been related to the conflict over Western Sahara, where after the latest incidents of this sort, the Spaniards changed their position much more in the Moroccan direction. But the Spanish Prime Minister, Sanchez, was in Algeria the other day, which is the arch enemy of the Moroccans on this particular issue, and talked about a new phase in relationship with Spain and Algiers, and that went down fairly badly in Morocco. That might be part of the background. Then there were other things that might have been utilized as the background to it. Anyhow, it happened. Then, of course, there were all sorts of reactions. And we saw J.D. Vance saying that northern Spain is being invaded. He wasn't even aware or there was Fox News that he referred to. They weren't even aware where Ceuta was. They thought it was in northern Spain. It's in fact in Africa. And we saw all of the Russian propaganda channels, and there was a certain reaction across Europe as well. The fear of a repetition of 2015 refugee crisis. The Italians were talking about suspending the Schengen Agreement. But at the end of the day, when it became clear to the 60, perhaps 1,000, that they were not welcome, there was hardly any food, there was no sleeping, there was nothing, and there was no prospect of getting to Spain. You have to get an identity card, identity documents in order to get on the ferries. And not a single one of them was able to get from Ceuta to Spain proper and to the continent of Europe. They went back, practically all of them. And from that point of view, the crisis was diffused. But it was clearly used by those from J.D. Vance to the Russian propaganda to extreme right-wing people in Europe who wanted to utilize a possible refugee crisis in order to destabilize Europe. Now, we'll see what happens. I mean, there will be discussion among European ministers about the conclusions. We have seen a fairly significant drop in illegal immigration to Europe, 40% drop in the beginning of this year. So clearly the policies that have been instituted by the Europeans together have been working. But it was a crisis, a serious one. Background somewhat difficult, but clearly there's a Moroccan element to it. But it was diffused, and from that point of view, the European policy worked.